The Protection of Personal Information Act 4 of 2013 comes into effect tomorrow. The Act aims to promote the protection of personal information processed by public and private bodies and to introduce certain conditions to establish minimum requirements for the processing of personal information, among other things. For more on this, we're joined by Era Gunning, who is the Banking and Finance Executive at ENS Africa. Good evening, Era, and thank you so much for your time. Interestingly enough, ahead of tomorrow, suddenly we're getting emails, messages telling us about POPI coming into effect, unsubscribe, opt out. Why did it need to take this moment for people to be able to actually get in touch with those that they've been spamming effectively?
Absolutely. You know, this act has been in the making for over a decade now. So it started off as a bill in about 2009 and then became an act in 2013, and it's been placed on hold until now. So it commenced last year, but the application has been suspended until tomorrow. So that is why we're seeing this mad rush, and today was probably my busiest day of all of my career, because every time I look down at my phone, I've got about 50 messages from clients very, very panicked about tomorrow. And what I keep on saying to everybody is, please understand the journey starts tomorrow. It's not a race. It's not a deadline. Tomorrow, everything ends. The regulators on our doorstep. So it's been a fun day.
The one thing about it, though, is that I suppose to some extent there have been service providers who have been willing to ride on private information of certain clients and hand it over to third parties. And this, fortunately, could well bring that to an end, or if not, ensure there's some level of accountability.
Absolutely, and accountability is key. I don't think we want to put service providers out of business, but we want them to respect our privacy. And in the words of the late Steve Jobs, is privacy is telling people over and over again what we do with the information. So this is why we see this rush of privacy statements going out today. People telling us now what they're doing with our information. Accountability, that's exactly what we want.
And the difficulty, of course, is that it took the POPI Act, or at least the enforcement in the way that we're going to see it from tomorrow, to be able to bring that level of accountability. Why do you think that institutions have not taken up the opportunity to do that on their own?
Some of them have. I know many companies who have taken this very, very seriously for the last 10 years. And of course, some have been worried about the effect it's going to have on their commercial reality, the cost during COVID-19. So many factors, but I don't think we could say that it's been ignored throughout. But from tomorrow onwards, the man on the street can start enforcing his or the woman her rights by approaching the regulator.
How is it likely to affect the banking sector?
I think the banking sector may be some of the low-hanging fruit that the regulator may go after immediately. We always seem to fight with our banks whenever we can. And I think if they've got robust procedures in place to allow us to, for example, opt out from direct marketing, telling us what they're doing with our information, treating us in a fair manner, then I don't think the effect is going to be incredibly significant, because most of the banks in South Africa have been rolling out POPI compliance programs for quite a while now.
Are there any particular industries that you feel are going to be hardest hit by this?
We're not sure. It's very unpredictable. When the General Data Protection regulation in the EU came out in 2018, everybody expected the supervisory authorities to go against the banking sector and pharmaceutical companies and so on. But the first fine was imposed against a small London pharmacy. So it's a bit unpredictable.
And the reality is that no company is going to be exempt, big or small. If a client feels that their data and that has been processed has been misused, they'll have recourse for that, won't they?
Oh, absolutely. So previously we did have the right to privacy. We had it in our common law forever. We've had it in our constitution. But if you wanted to enforce that right, you had to go to a court of law, which most of us can't afford. So now we've got this avenue of going to our information regulator. and even our information regulator can even sue on our behalf if non-compliance with the Act is found. And I think that is going to be the big difference that we're going to see with this Act when it kicks in tomorrow.
Era Gunning, let me thank you so much for your time tonight on The Pulse.